Welcome. Let's get going. Hello. I am Mayor Watt. That is ohmTown.com, and that's what powers this show. My hands get really big when I bring them close to the camera. It's a really cool perspective thing. Anyway, where was I? I am Mayor Watt. This is the ohmTown Daily News Show for October 24th, 2022. We are a week away from Halloween. So Spooktober is almost over. Kind of a bummer. I haven't been able to play any scary games. Just working all the time here in ohmTown. And I've been trying to, in all of the shows lately, trying to introduce Waffleton Adventure Company, which is a channel that is hosting a sand table. So go over to Waffleton Adventure Company here on Twitch. Streaming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm actually watching it right there. And it happens to be physically right there. It's pretty cool. Anyway, sand table, redesigns, a pattern all the time, constantly changing. And some chill music. At the moment, it's chill music. I might play something else another day. Maybe I'll switch it over to the spooky music that I'm playing right now here on ohmTown Daily News Show. So what is the ohmTown Daily News Show? It is basically a show that talks about the last 24 hours of news, although sometimes I grab something from history. And by history, I mean maybe upwards of a week old, but usually it's within the last 24 hours. So I know it's supposed to be just the last 24 hours because it's a daily news show and not a history channel. Anyway, let's get into today's news. The very first article is in the Warcrafters channel. It is Terraria becomes the first indie hit to break 1 million positive user reviews on Steam. And if you've not done this before, you can actually type in showbot and it'll get taken. It will allow you to take yourself over to ohmtown.showbot.tv, where you can vote on the articles that I post into chat. And you can vote, hey, I like this article. You should do more of it. And we can talk about this kind of stuff. Well, Terraria has been around for a while. We like Terraria so much we reviewed it twice, according to this article. This article is over at PC Gamer, once in 2011 when it was new, and then again in 2018, and they found that it was still one of the best adventures out there. Yeah, it's a really fun game. I like playing it from time to time. I never really got too deep into it, but I've never gotten into any game really deep. Not since World of Warcraft's original builds. It started getting, after, well, let's see, after Death Knights. Maybe there were a couple of other expansions that were pretty good, but I don't know. I gave up playing when I started working on grad school the first time. So anyway, when we found that there was still one of the best adventures out there, in case that's not sufficient testament to both its quality and its durability, Terraria has now pulled in over 1 million positive user reviews on Steam, becoming the first indie game to do so. Pretty awesome. I dig Terraria. It has a pretty fun base building, survival kind of concept to it. If you've never heard of it, I don't know where you've been, but welcome to, gamer heaven? I don't know what to really call this. Terraria is a lot of fun to play. It's not really that intensive on your hardware, so you can actually get up and running relatively low cost. Andy Chalk over at PCGamer.com is the one that wrote this article, and it says, it's also the only one of the 5 most reviewed games on Steam to have an overwhelming popular... Let me back that up a little bit. an overwhelmingly popular user rating, which is pretty amazing. Let's see if they say anything else in here. Terraria co-creator. Oh, by the way, they're not really updating Terraria anymore. To be clear, Terraria is not the first game to hit 1 million positive user reviews, but it's the first sort of indie darling to reach the mark. Games ahead of it on the list include Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, PUBG, Dota 2, and Grand Theft Auto. Those are all basically mega corporations, whereas Terraria is just kind of the indie darling. It really is. Go and check it out. It's over on Steam. I think everybody has it by now. If you don't, though, go get it now. Let's do the next article. This one is about cars. If you're not into cars, you might like this. I've always liked the Ioniq 5 since it came out. It is a fairly new car in terms of being on my radar, but the Hyundai Ioniq 5 just won Motor Trend's SUV of the year, and they have 5 things why they liked the electric model when they tested it. This is over at Business Insider. Let's just go over to the article. Today might be a fast day. I've always liked its look. Like the first time that I saw the Ioniq 5, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Cyberpunky, very techy looking. The wheels look like they want to be iris lenses and close in on themselves. And that's the fender wells. And then it transitions again into the rims themselves. Wow, something happened with Nightbot. 1 second. I'm sorry. Let's see if I can do this again. Sorry, okay, there we go. Now it's working. So it's the first time an electric vehicle has won the prize. Motor Trend's SUV of the year. They say that they loved the quick acceleration, striking looks, and spacious, stylish interior. It's $40,000, 300 miles of range. It had a couple of recalls, if I recall correctly. Yeah. Let me see real quick. Because I swear I talked about it in 2022. Software error in the shifter control unit may disengage. So there's a couple of recalls. Most cars get a recall, but this one says Hyundai and Kia recall nearly 20,000 Ioniq 5s, EV6s. I guess it's for the same issue. Yeah, the shifter control unit can disengage the parking brake and it'll just like roll down a hill or something. But yeah, I agree. This is a pretty neat car. Hyundai loaned the author a $55,000 all-wheel drive model. If it is $55,000 for an all-wheel drive, it's too expensive, and it's all in the battery pack. About 20 grand, 25 grand is probably the battery pack. Tim Levin is the author of this article over at businessinsider.com. We really need to just ditch the battery as a part of the ownership. It's a consumable, and I think that we should treat it like we treat gas. Charge people to swap it out. However much you want to charge. Oh, it costs $10 to swap out a battery. You're not losing anything. You have to build the systems and all of that, but it's you sink that cost into a process that allows you to swap out a battery, and bingo bango, you've got the batteries. The only problem is people really screw things up, and you can't have nice things because somebody's going to steal the battery like a catalytic converter, because there's just a lot of scumbaggery out there. Here are the 5 things that the author liked about the terrific Tesla rival. Space age looks. I like it too, especially the headlights. They're square. High brightness LEDs. A thin little line that, I don't know, it's pretty striking. I like it. ultra fast charging. Charging can be one of the most daunting elements of an electric car ownership. Fortunately, when it comes to the Ioniq 5, it can accommodate 350 kilowatt fast charging. That means it can reach 80% in just 10 minutes, or 18 minutes, sorry, scratch that, 18 minutes. And it has this little charging meter behind its door. Minivan spaciousness and comfort, yeah, it doesn't have a center console. Or I should say a drive shaft hump. And they highlight it by putting their bag in that little space where you would have the little hump for your drive shaft. Quick, thrilling acceleration. Let's see, it says rated at 320 horsepower, not bad. 446 pound-feet of torque. In sport mode, it shoots forward with a force that's almost nauseating if you, like that author, overdo it. Hello, Tull. How are you? Welcome to the show. Are you interested in an EV? This is the Ioniq 5 that we're talking about. The dual motor all-wheel drive tester that the author used is rated at 320 horsepower, 446 pound-feet of torque. And it goes from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5 seconds. Not bad for your run-of-the-mill kind of EV. It'll be a long time before you get an EV. Yeah, I don't know. I keep thinking about getting an EV. But for me, it depends on the stability of it in cold weather. And batteries tend to become less efficient in heat and in cold. They have this sweet spot of operation. Although there are newer batteries that are self-heating and are efficient at that heat level. It's quite cool, so to speak. You could be okay with an electric tractor trailer truck. Yeah, the batteries on a truck are just, there's so much. The new, what is it called? My brain just fell out of my head. There are a couple of trucks out there that are not just the Lightning, but the Rivian. The moment it starts towing anything, the battery just drains. Blah. It might as well just jump out of its battery compartment and just lay on the side of the road and slowly drain away, because that's exactly what happens when you start towing something. Whereas internal combustion trucks, they can withstand that towing, and they don't drain so fast. Plus, it takes 5 minutes to fill up a gas-powered car, whereas it takes 20 minutes just to get to 80% on this vehicle, and this vehicle has ultra-fast supercharge. So, I just don't see it. I think that they need, I've said this in other episodes, we need to standardize around a sled that allows for a quick release and replacement of batteries, and consumers don't buy the batteries. They basically pay the gas station, which is basically a battery swap station. You pay $10, you swap the battery out, put a new battery in. Not a new battery, but a fully charged battery that's been tested, vetted, put into your vehicle with the assurance that it's been topped off and you have the ability to reach the next gas station. It's not going to fail. Because within 10 years, the batteries on all of these EVs, they're going to start failing. And then you have to pay another $20,000. Nobody wants to buy a burnt out battery powered car. Nobody wants to. Not unless the price for batteries make it cost effective. When they figure out how to develop regenerative kinetic force dynamics, then you'd be on board. Yeah. It needs to be much more efficient than it is now. Freightliner has a electric Cascadia tractor trailer that can haul 80,000 pounds for a range of up to 500 miles. I would not be surprised, but the cost probably has to be massively expensive. Just huge, if you will. It would take a Freightliner of cash to buy an electric Freightliner. I used to be the consultant for somebody that made custom grills for Freightliners. So they are extremely popular trucks out there. Now let's move on to the next article, but I'll keep talking with you, Tull. Welcome to the channel again. There's a company in Texas that's working on inductive charging highway surface that can charge your car as you drive it. Would love that, but I don't know. You know, some numbnuts out there is going to be poking and prodding at that capacitive induction charging surface just to see how it ticks. U.S. comedian has partnered. Family Guy Seth MacFarlane has acquired an equity stake in American single malt whiskey Bear Fight. Comedian has partnered with Next Century Spirits to serve as the chief storyteller of Bear Fight, which launched in May of 2022. MacFarlane said, "There's a lot of whiskey out there, so for me to put my name on it, it's either great or I'm getting paid a ton of money." Well, they're paying me a ton of money. They're paying me almost nothing, which means Bear Fight is damn good whiskey. And they said some more, but let's take you over to thespiritbusiness.com and Alice Brooker, who wrote this article, and there's Seth holding the Bear Fight whiskey. Single malt whiskey. E-Cascadia is actually only double the price of a diesel tractor. Only double. So $500,000, is that it? Let's see. Well, they're paying him almost nothing, so I guess Bear Fight is pretty good. I don't know. I might have to go and get it just to see if MacFarlane has a good taste in whiskey versus the Orville. I liked the Orville. I didn't like the fact that it's on Hulu, but it be what it be. The whiskey delivers aromas and flavors of candied pecans, ripe red apples, sweet sherry, and a hint of Islay style peat. I just don't get it. I can never pull all of these flavors out. I guess my palate is that of, I don't know, maybe a brick? But I don't taste all of that stuff. I just taste whiskey. So it's somewhere between 270,000 and 390,000, and it only goes up to 225 miles on a charge with a full load. Well, if you put like a little truck on it so you don't deadhead, right? You're not supposed to deadhead. Maybe it gets 350 miles. That battery has to be smoking. Yeah, that's me, Tull. If it tastes good, tastes good. If it tastes less good, that's about where your palate ends. Yeah, we're on the same page. Absolutely. Well, this stuff is only, $40 US on Reserve Bar and forwhiskeylovers.com. Why does forwhiskeylovers.com sound like a boozy OnlyFans? I better move on. Blunder in affirmative action case may cost Harvard $15 million. A missed insurance notice opened a window onto the cost of litigating challenges to race-conscious admissions programs to be heard this month by the Supreme Court. This is over at the New York Times. A missed insurance notice opened a window for race-conscious admissions to be heard by the Supreme Court. Why, in the 21st century, are we still talking about race? It's the 21st century. We all do realize, right, that humans are just humans. Affirmative action is a blunder. Tull. We can sometimes hear something and it just doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's the way that I said it. I don't have any problem with the fact that I thought that that sounds really funny too. Affirmative action is a blunder. No. Adam Liptak. Wow. Okay. New York Times article. It's titled "Blunder in Affirmative Action Case May Cost Harvard $15 million." Adam Liptak is the author of this. And basically, Harvard failed to file a timely formal claim with one of its insurance companies for its expenses in defending the lawsuit challenging its admissions policies. That company, Zurich American Insurance, refused to pay, and Harvard sued. In the process, the university disclosed that its legal fees and expenses in the admissions lawsuit and related Justice Department investigation had topped $27 million. Not to drag this over to the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial, but at the end of that trial, everybody came to find out that Amber Heard and the magazine that published the article that she wrote got a liability insurance policy in place just in case somebody sued them for libel. And that's exactly what happened. And why do you get a liability insurance policy in place when you post something online? It's because you're expecting something, that it's inflammatory, that is libelous, for crying out loud. Well, anyway, Harvard had a insurance policy against their admissions policies, and that, well, they blew past that flag, I guess, and got called out for their admissions policies. Gosh, I wonder why. Could it actually have been that, yeah, it actually did have some issues. One of the nation's top universities is apparently not great about doing its homework, said David Latt, a legal commentator. Days after the Students for Fair Admission sued Harvard in 2014, arguing that its practice of taking account of race in its undergraduate admissions decision is unlawful and harmed Asian American applicants, the university formally notified its primary insurance carrier to seek payment of its defense costs, and that policy had a $25 million limit after Harvard paid $2.5 million. So insurance is another industry that is a legal racketeering. You know, it's really interesting because I can't count how many people say the moment that insurance becomes profitable is the moment that MBAs get involved in insurance, because basically your policy is all dependent on your age and your perceived risk. So they ramp up what you have to pay if they think that you're going to meet an early demise or you are risky one way or the other. You know, like you're 18 on a motorcycle that has 1100 horsepower, like a Hayabusa or something, and blah, 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 right? So then you transition that into health insurance, and it basically becomes a nightmare for everybody who's trying to save lives, because the MBAs are trying to push it the other way. And when there was some research that came out back in March of this year, I talked about it then, I've talked about it a couple of times since then. The moment that somebody with an MBA enters a business and is in leadership, they suppress wages, but don't make the business any better. They actually suppress the wages of the employees, but don't increase the bottom line in the process of doing that. They basically make everything worse. It's quite interesting to read the document. I'd have to get it and post it, but I haven't done that for a while. I'll have to hunt it down. But yeah, MBAs basically, business school is bad for business based on what this article said, or not the article, but this research study said. So what's this told? You said you keep saying the most dangerous part of the American language is the hyphen. Why do we preach equality but refer to people as African American, Asian American? A lot of things people get upset about sound really silly if you drop the hyphenated phrase and just call everyone Americans. Yeah, so I've had this conversation particularly about this, and the reason why people like to identify to X, Y, and Z is because they are marginalized in society. And it isn't, you and I may see people for the content of their character, right? But many people don't. And because just like, I'll bring it more to like the employee-employer dynamic, right? Employees don't have any bargaining power. In many cases, they don't have any bargaining power, but together they form a union and they can stand up against basically an oppressive employer that says, well, out of the graciousness of my heart, I'm giving you a job and you should kneel on bended knee, right? And say, thank you, your grace, for giving me a job, except that the employee really is the one that is the driving force of the business. It just happens to be that the employer has the ability to produce a job. Because if everybody walks from a business, guess what? That business collapses. And that's kind of what this is. When people identify with a group that they want to identify with, it gives them the authority, it empowers people. And so while I think that everybody should just be treated as human, a lot of people don't see, African Americans or Asian Americans, or somebody from another country entirely as being on par and equal. And that's why I said at the very beginning of that article, why are we still arguing about race in the 21st century? And I think it's a shame. We should just embrace people for who they are. And when somebody is a complete a-hole, you call out that. I had somebody get mad at me today because they went into the same lane that I am taking a turn into, and I have the right of way. And they got mad at me. And I'm sitting there going, that is the type of person that's just an a-hole. It didn't matter anything else about them. It was just bad form for what they did. And that pales in comparison to some of the disparate treatment that people receive simply because of their race. And frankly, it's a shame. It's reprehensible that this stuff continues in the 21st century. And it definitely happens. There's a lot of different socioeconomic machinations here. So you agree with the union serve that purpose. Then the federal government gets involved with the DOL and the union reps get greedy. Yeah, I agree. I have only seen from the outside the impact of a union. I haven't seen it myself. But I know that sometimes they are ineffective. Absolutely agree that with the rate of travel, the ease of movement around the world, and even the accessibility to relocate to another country, the idea of emphasizing someone's differences is just ridiculous. See, but it doesn't really mean de-emphasize someone's differences, but embrace those differences, until it becomes an oppressive difference. I think that everything is fine to embrace it, because I love the music from many different cultures. I love the art from many different cultures. I love the people from many different cultures. There's always a tool bag sitting there in somebody else's country that, you might stumble across while you're traveling or when they're vacationing here. It's just the nature of humanity. See, to have to live in fear that something you say completely innocently or ignorantly, is going to be taken out of context and you done the scarlet letter and are shunned. Yeah, it's possible. That's certainly doable. And in today's world, that word of mouth is instantaneous, and you have to fight basically the messaging that's in place, and you have to kind of fight back, like that's not what I said. Here's the real context. You have to re-educate people that you didn't say or do what is being interpreted. It's happened in the past. To be upset that you have to clearly feminine features and someone that just meets you says ma'am and you identify with an Apache helicopter and you blow up at them. It's silly. Yeah. Well, some people are very defensive about the situation. But as long as everybody communicates and has empathy and compassion and sympathy and understands the plight of each other's situation regardless. Yeah, some people will lash out because they have been mistreated in the past. So this next article is, well, quite the opposite of what we're talking about, because this is in the Law Nerd channel, and you hear a lot from certain people, well, you know, if you have nothing to hide, why are you afraid of the law? Or you didn't do anything wrong, so why not talk to the authorities? Well, Graham asks Supreme Court justices to block subpoena in election interference probe Senator Lindsey Graham. A Republican from South Carolina asked the Supreme Court on Friday to block a Georgia grand jury from questioning him about phone calls after the 2020 election to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. By the way, it's all been recorded and disclosed. Let me respond to that toll here. Let me do this here. So Brad Raffensperger gets the phone calls from Lindsey Graham, and now it doesn't want, Lindsey Graham does not want to get questioned or the information disclosed publicly or confirmed. Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis wants to ask Graham about the calls in which he allegedly discussed the state's absentee ballot process and allegations of voter fraud as part of her investigation into possible election interference by former President Donald Trump and his allies. So this is an ongoing thing, and the Supreme Court has actually blocked the subpoena. Amy Howe over at scotusblog.com is the source of this article. And there was, well, I won't get into that, but anyway, a federal court, district court in Georgia ruled that Graham could not be questioned about portions of the calls in which he was asking questions related to the certification of the 2020 election, but he could be questioned about other topics, such as his purpose in raising the issues and his communications with the Trump campaign. Fine. Answer questions, though. Why? What is the problem with you? If you can have communication about the situation, why not discuss it publicly? Shouldn't the public know that there is voter fraud taking place in Georgia, except that every time it ends up in court, there is no voter fraud? The election was not tampered with. And when it was tampered with in a different way, it was by the very side that's gaslighting people. And it's not the entirety of the GOP. It is the wingnut contingent within it that seems to be the ones that are holding on to the purse strings, and nobody will just boot them out of the GOP and say, go, be your wingnut component of your own political party. But nobody wants to give up the money. And that's why everybody is staying within the GOP. Just like there's a wingnut component of the Democratic side. But let's just make it abundantly clear. The wingnut component of the Democratic side wants everything open and everybody accepting everybody as everything at all times everywhere. Whereas the wingnut component of the other side of the Republican Party of the GOP is saying clamp down on everything and no, you can't be anything other than what I tell you to be. So, told to get back to what you were saying, if we, meaning white males, this is what's in the chat, lash out because we're mistreated in the present, you're chastised as misogynist. Well, it depends on the context. I can't say wholly that it always is like that. But it certainly does get, I guess, represented as misogynist, but it really depends on the context of it. So it would always take further enlightenment as to what the context really is, because it doesn't always happen. I can't say that always happens, but it certainly stands out in people's minds when they witness it. So Lindsey is kind of screwed on this one. It's not really the Supreme Court's job to intervene with this kind of stuff. Well, they did. Justice Thomas did. But, there's certainly no conflict of interest. There wasn't their wife that went off trying to flip the election in other states. There's no conflict there, right? I'm sure that's it. You'll just say that you have no doubt that every ballot in the polling site was counted. Yes, I agree. It's really interesting, though. A lot of people sit there and say, well, it all happened at the dead of night at 2 a.m. or whatever. It's called batching. All of the electoral locations transfer their data at given times. And it's whenever their counting was certified and sent forward to be counted fully. And so, of course, there's going to be influxes of data, and it's not going to happen at the prime time, because the prime time is when, if there is an overload of the processing center, you're going to get an error. And so they avoid all of that by doing it at set times, different times. And you do have personal experience with the double standard during your CDL school, and actually managed to shame the entire class for their indifference in the conflict. Yeah, a lot of people try and stand away from it, they want to basically witness the train wreck but not take part in it. And sometimes it takes everybody to say no, let's not go down this road, because it's not a legitimate situation of misogyny or oppression or something like that. There's always additional context until the whole truth is known, and it's very difficult to get people to communicate when the conversation sways one way entirely, and you don't have somebody trying to be an arbitrator and discuss it peacefully. Usually somebody will say something outlandish and it'll get taken as the truth, and it rarely ever is solely that way. It's like seeing a recording, but it's 35 seconds after the fit has hit the shan, so to speak, and people are now hitting record on their phones. It always takes some more conversation, which is why I like doing the show. I like talking about all of this stuff. But I'm sure I'm sure you are fine, and try not to hang on to it. This next article is over in, am I posting these? Yeah, I did. Okay. So this next article is over in the Warcrafters channel. If you're into gaming, this one is for you. Disco Elysium writer is suing developer, I don't know how to pronounce this, Zaum or Z-A-U-M. I don't know, I've never heard it actually pronounced, but Studio Z-A-U-M. So founding member and developer on one of the PC gamers' all-time favorite, Disco Elysium, it all dissolved. And he said the company is a cultural project, no longer represents the ethos it was founded on, adding that artist Alexander Rostov and the writers Helen Hindpeer and Robert Kurvitz left involuntarily. In a follow-up interview, Luiga said the three were fired on false premises, implying the legal action against ZAUM was incoming. So how do you feel about that? So Toll, you said that you blew up because one student is Hispanic. kept throwing the N-word out during a rant directed at your instructor. Jeez. But all the people of color said nothing after things died down, called them out on their double standard, and they all got real sheepish. Good for you. Yeah. I'm surprised that nobody else lost their mind, because it is a very inflammatory word. And I'm usually one that is like, well, you should be able to say any word in the right context. But the N word is pretty much, I think, the only word that has zero context. It should be kind of, and I hate to say that I want to strike something from the lexicon. But when we do this kind of thing, when we, like this don't say gay bill, when we strike a word from our lexicon, we are doomed to have it pop up again, because people forget that it actually existed. But thankfully we've been using the N-word as a replacement, and whenever somebody who uses it as it is said, there's always somebody that punches him in the face. Yeah, they excused him because they assumed his background was like a Spanish ghetto. He said, no, it doesn't make it right. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I don't think anybody should be throwing around the N-word. And, oh yeah, so you hate the don't say gay bill because the phrase is nowhere in the bill, and has nothing to do with the nature of the bill. Yeah, it's and if you are listening to this as a podcast, or as a VOD or over on YouTube, so the don't say gay bill, that's the phrase that is used to replace the more complex nature of the bill, which basically says you can't talk to somebody in grade school regarding anything about sexuality that isn't pertinent to the lesson plan, except that the rest of it is excising sexual identity in the learning plans. So essentially A plus B equals don't say gay. But it's pithier to say that's the name of the bill when it's not really. Like I said, there's always additional context. But it's weird. It's weird in that children don't even see it. Children don't see sexuality until much later. Not until they're approaching high school do you even see the inclination towards seeing a different identity of people, like gender. They might ask questions, why is there two mommies or, two daddies or whatever? And then it's completely lost on them when you actually explain it. But it's there. It gets, when you explain it, it's in their head, but they don't care. They just don't see it. Opposition has to use inflammatory phrase to cause outrage to gain false support to fight the bill. I don't know. I mean, it's basically silencing the ability for people to discuss the humanity of society. It is what it is. But there's always going to be a component that says it's not up to educators to say that, except that children are with educators 8 hours out of the day. And in many cases, it's the educator that's taking care of the child. A parent just drops them off and says, see you later. With little to no engagement when they're at home. But many will get upset by me even saying that. Just to drop back into the articles, PC Gamer, this article is written by Molly Taylor. about Disco Elysium writer is suing developers the AUM. And Robert Kurvitz filed suit on behalf of his own company, Telomere OU, I guess. And so yeah, Tull says, sadly, the school system has become a daycare. Indeed. And it's like herding cats, 30, 40 students, children per class. It's really untenable, particularly when grade school instructors are paid just a pittance for what they have to deal with. Some parents don't want to take care of their kid, let alone the simple fact is that instructors in grade school love what they do because they love the idea of making a holistic child prepared for the next year of class, and they get to watch kids become, self-aware and fully engaged human beings, with a holistic understanding of their world around them. I mean, they learn everything from day-to-day school and hanging out with other kids, and very little from parents in the grand scheme of things. So what's going to come of Disco Elysium in terms of reputation, since the Disco Elysium writer is suing the developer? I guess we'll have to watch and see what happens. I'm not sure. I knew that there were problems with the situation at Disco Elysium when it dissolved. The next article is a single chip has managed to transfer the entire internet's traffic in a single second. I read about this in a different article. And a single chip, which uses fiber optic cable, it's just pure light, successfully showed a data transmission of 1.84 petabits over a 7.9 kilometer fiber cable using just a single chip. I don't know how expensive this would be, but it says by splitting a data stream into 37 sections, one for each core of a fiber optic cable, and then further splitting each of those into 223 channels, the researchers were able to remove a great deal of interference that slows down optical systems and therefore deliver an internet's worth of data transmission using a single chip. I love this idea. I'm curious if they're going to have a picture of the actual chip and maybe some interface. This I don't think is they have a picture here. Jacob Ridley over at PCGamer.com. It says researchers prove there's a lot more room to grow for the internet with silicon photonics. And that's silicon, not silicone. A single chip has managed to transfer over a petabit. And that's more than a petabit. It's 1.8 petabits. 1.84 to be precise. Over a 7.9 kilometer fiber cable. I'll actually be giving a demonstration about fiber optics tomorrow. Let's see. So your kids hate you as parents because you're involved in their lives. Yeah. Yeah, I'm in a lot of people's lives like that. That's cool that we have the ability to transfer so much data so rapidly. Yeah, this is kind of in a semi-lab environment. I really want to see this kind of stuff reaching out into the public domain, retail channels, but the most you can get in your home easily is 10 gigabits. And this is 1.84 petabits. And it says that's not quite as fast as some other alternatives with larger, bulkier systems, which has reached up to 10.66 petabits. But the key here is scale. The proposed system is very compact. I want them to show a picture, but they don't have a picture in here. There is a research paper, though, relies on a bank of investigations into the concept of a single chip solution across multiple researchers and papers, including one by researchers in Australia called ultra dense optical data transmission over standard fiber with a single chip source. That always flows off the tongue. They say catchy in the article. Let's see. What use is there to transfer that much data so fast? Well, it basically speeds up the backbone of the internet. With a bank of these set across the width of a country, you could transfer the information at a greater rate. And so, for instance, there is a backbone to the internet. It's largely been consolidated into various fiber optic connections. Nobody knows where they are. Well, actually, people know where they are, but I should say the general public don't know where they are. The general public don't care what the backbone is. They just want fast, reliable internet. And if you use fiber optic cables to transfer this data as fast as possible, all data gets to its destination that much faster. People actually do high frequency trading on the stock market. They actually move closer to the data center that processes the trades so that they can get nanosecond speeds closer to the transaction process versus, you or I sitting on the side of the road making a Robinhood trade. It's going to take considerable amount of time, but larger trading platforms like Fat Cats, artificial intelligent machine learning, automated trading platforms, high frequency trading platforms, all of these things, if they can get closer, they will do it. So you want your data on your screen before you knew you wanted the data on your screen? Indeed, that's where I am. I grew up playing a game called Cyberpunk, where you just stick a wire in your head. You're operating at the speed of thought. That's where we're going to end up. I will unfortunately probably not be around for that. But maybe I can be like MODOK and I'll just be a brain in a jar. Works for me. Data mining for Bitcoin? Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen with Bitcoin. That's a good transition. The stock market is up today. Great. It's basically wealthy money chasing wealthy money. Bitcoin kind of meh. That traded high yesterday, but still didn't dig itself out of 19,000. And today it went down 211 from yesterday's upward trend. It never got higher than 19.5. I think that it's done. It's not going to hit. I think its peak will ever be 25,000 in the next 10 years. That's my prediction. But gas prices are still hovering around $3.08 or 80 cents here in the States. Elsewhere, it's going up. But diesel is still almost $2 what it was a year ago. That's why inflation is what inflation is. It certainly isn't because everybody's, going, well, I have record profits. Maybe my margin doesn't need to be that high. But I've gotten into these discussions and just recently there were some political discussions taking place where it highlighted the fact that the reason why we have inflation is because of corporate greed. Yeah. Subsidies, marginal. Corporations believe that if there's money on the table, they should take it. That is an ideological bent that was framed around a business person's perspective of what the moral compass of a business should be. But modern businesses that are started by this generation believe in a more holistic interaction with society, and so they have altruistic elements within the enterprise, and it isn't the what you would probably hear somebody that starts a business today and is in their 20s. They would refer to the old school mantra of the only thing that matters is revenue generation. They would call that late stage capitalism. But this is why we have 8% mortgages. This is why the CPI is massively out of a line with what should have been a natural progression. We consumers are paying way more than we should. And it's because if you look at all of the corporations of producers, not just companies, mom and pop shops, but producers, you will see massive profits, even during a complete shutdown of the nation. Well, what's the motivation there? Well, there may be a lot of money out on the table, but just because it's out there doesn't mean that you have to take it. What you should be doing when you make a product is you cover all of your costs, and there's some squeeze on top of that, but not necessarily what you're going to find out about coming in 2023, things like 10,000% markup. It is a moral dilemma, and businesses powered by humans. It isn't some separate entity that controls itself. It has humans steering it. So nowadays you hear a lot of this ethical business. So how much of it is subsidies? Really depends on the domain, depends on the business, depends on what you're talking about. To actually discuss it, I would have to go and hunt down various examples of it, or be asked, hey, what about this? What about that business or this business? But I can tell you that the biggest tax on gas is by the state, not by the federal government. By the federal government, it's 19 cents. The rest of it is profit, and on the other side, the state levying a tax per gallon. Different places have different things. Different states give subsidies to various businesses, to various people, to support systems. And in a perfect world, everybody would have ample opportunity. It wouldn't have to take advantage of public support systems. It's just the way that it's much more complex than I can describe in short order. But there's a lot more context here than just it's a subsidies thing. So this next article is in 4-Wheel Tech. 74% say connected cars and EV chargers need cybersecurity ratings. This is an interesting one because up until today, I don't think anybody's really been talking about this. It says there's a new Energy Star-like label system for connected devices, but not for cars. Jonathan M. Gitlin over at Ars Technica wrote this article. And it says here almost 3 in 4 people think that connected cars and electric vehicle chargers should be rated for their ability to resist cybersecurity threats. There's a lot of concern with this kind of stuff because historically devices that don't have cybersecurity in mind yet are connected to things like the internet, they become the vectors for cybersecurity breaches. And just imagine if your EV is breached via its charging port, which is definitely a possibility if the port and the charger communicate, but they don't have cybersecurity in mind. The survey was commissioned in response to a new White House initiative announced on Wednesday. The Biden administration plans to launch a labeling program for Internet of Things devices in 2023, similar to Energy Star ratings that tell consumers how much electricity a TV or appliance will use. A lot of states actually are now spinning up programs that help businesses assess what their cybersecurity profile is. It's just it's a serious problem, and one that I tell small businesses on the regular and individuals that you need to become cybersecurity savvy, at least at a base level understanding of technology. Otherwise, you'll be the victim of somebody else being cybersecurity savvy, and they'll exploit it if their moral compass is misdirected. And here in the States, I say, if you commit a if you commit a cyber crime, you will get caught. If you do it to the level where it pops up on somebody's radar, you will eventually get caught. Just because you don't get caught the first time doesn't mean you won't get caught the second or third time. And these are instantly federal crimes. These aren't just state, because you're using communication lines to penetrate systems. So Tulsa is, see, another reason why the dream car, 74 El Camino SS with a big block 454. Yeah, I like a nice V8. Yeah, I can't really. I love tech, so I would love an all electric anything, as long as it has 4 motors in the wheels and hits 0 to 60 in 1.8 seconds. The faster the better. Concerned about the idea of keyless entry into your house or car that uses an app as your key. It's easier to get into a keyed entry than it is into a digital system, if the digital system is programmed with the right security features in place. If somebody skimps on the security, it's going to happen. But a keyed entry, all you need is a rake and a lever, and you can open up pretty much any keyed entry. Go and watch a person on YouTube called the Lockpicking Lawyer, and you'll see there is not a single lock that can't be picked. But a keyless entry, you have to hack your way into it. And if the right security is in place, you want a car that'll lift the front wheels off the ground for funsies? Yeah, I used to do that. Now I've said too much. Perhaps alarmingly for R's readers, only 54% of the 1,008 people surveyed said that they are concerned about internet-connected devices in their homes being hacked, and just 32% said that they own Internet of Things devices. Oh, and so today I was in a meeting with some 60 other people, and the person that was giving the presentation was logged into somebody else's profile on the computer they were presenting from, and yeah, I had a conversation with them because I'm a big proponent of cybersecurity and understanding IT. Because somebody else's document could be exploited through whatever login you used to get access to that document. So I just told them that they could have been fished pretty easy. Anyway, go and check this out. 74% say connected cars and EV chargers need cybersecurity settings. Did I actually post that? No, I didn't. Let me throw that into chat. And there you go. If you missed it, if you hit !showbot, that'll take you over to ohmTown.showbot.tv, where you can actually vote on articles. And I have a couple more, quite a few more, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to rifle through these real quick. A car feature subscription should be illegal, a New Jersey legislator says. This is in Four-Wheel Tech as well, a channel that's devoted to vehicle-centric technologies. Your keypad is front door, but yeah, it would... that made working remote an impossibility when you were active duty. Why would it make working remote impossibility while you're active duty? I'm curious. So car feature subscription should be illegal. So if you had heard a while back, there were a couple of reports where you had to pay a subscription fee for heating your car. Tesla recently announced owners of a car have to pay $99 a year or $10 a month to access navigation. Others basically have licensing requirements for a car, just to have it either activated or in perpetuity. You have to pay so that you can keep on using it. We're not talking about like entertainment. We're talking about full self-driving feature. They just charge a fee at this point, but it just went up from $12,000 to $15,000 in September to activate it. BMW made the Apple CarPlay a subscription feature before backtracking from it in 2019. There's another one for the heating elements in BMWs. It just seems weird to me and rather predatory that you have to pay a subscription for anything short of the entertainment from a satellite service, and that's really, it going into it. So I don't know why anybody would ever buy a BMW wherein you have to pay $10 a month just to heat your seats or use Apple CarPlay. Forget it. I'm out. Not the keypad. That was slipped in the wrong place, but the security protocols in the systems you had to access made it impossible to work remote. It's frustrating. The Kia Connect app was only 1 year subscription trial, and now to use the remote features on the car, you have to pay $30 a month. What does it do? See, I like the idea of Kia, but I'm not going to pay a subscription. Let's keep hustling through these. Jonathan M. Gitlin is the author of the article over on Ars Technica. Car feature subscription should be illegal, say a New Jersey legislator. I agree. And let's see, who is it that's saying this? They don't really say. That's interesting. Assemblyman Paul Moriarty and Joe Danielson introduced a bill that would prohibit car makers or dealers from offering subscriptions in New Jersey. They put that right in the dead center of the article. Let's keep on hustling through these articles. TSMC says efforts to rebuild U.S. semiconductor industry is doomed to fail. Apple supplier TSMC believes the U.S. efforts to build chip manufacturing at home are doomed to fail. I referred to this 15 years ago as repatria sourcing. I love mashing up words. Anyway, so repatriating the manufacturing process from foreign countries, I think, is very important to the sustainability of business and stability of business in the United States. A lot of intellectual property is lost immediately because it gets exported to another country that doesn't follow the same rules as the United States and other European countries, right? And when that takes place, you basically lose any competitive advantage. Now, I understand that it's really easy to take something nowadays and just reverse engineer it. There are people that get paid big bucks to do it. But when the manufacturing itself is exported to another country, you lose all domestic competitive advantage. I actually watched one person producing their product, and before the creator of the product hit retail, it was already cloned and selling on Amazon. And they couldn't do anything about it because you can't protect the idea. You can protect something with a patent, but that only goes as far as one can protect it and defend it and fight. So you would literally have to be chasing after every single listing and notify Amazon, hey, this is my product and it's protected by a patent. You have to go through the legal process. It has to be excised from Amazon. Somebody else will pop up. You have to find it. Meanwhile, they are diluting your product's viability because every sale keeps you from making money off of your patented idea. So I've gotten to the point where don't get a patent. Don't get a patent unless it's something that is extremely complex, and something that is defensible and sustainable within the United States and within Europe. Don't bother with a patent. Spend your money hitting the ground running and make your money fast. And if it's a business process, then protect that process. But an idea can't be protected. So let's see here. Tull says, you find it ironic that the same party that apologizes for the U.S. being the best country in the world is also the same party that's now realizing how important it is for use to be the developer of the end product instead of just exporting the raw materials and buying the finished product back. Yeah, that's exactly a lot of that. That's what happens. So it lets you start your car, open the doors, set the air conditioning. That's what that app does. Got it. It seems like it should be part and parcel to the purchase price. I don't know. That always bothers me. Like my car doesn't have that, but I can do that. I can do everything that you just described, but I don't have to pay a fee. Although I don't think I can do the air conditioning via the app. Huh. But I can do remote starts and open windows and doors and stuff like that. So let's see. Let's go over to Apple Insider. Andrew Orr is the author. And yeah, doomed to fail probably because there's so much oversight that the cost of operations might eclipse the profitability and defensibility of domestic manufacturing. So let's see what the article actually says. The contract manufacturer rose to become top chip maker in the world, commanding 20% of global wafer fabrication, 92% of advanced chip fabs. Yeah, I totally believe that. And it'll probably get scooped up by China here in short order. We'll see. The government believes that if China were to attack the country, the U.S. would come to its aid to prevent China from seizing the industry. Doubt it. The U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan in August. She met with Morris Chang and Mark Liu, chair of TSMC. Chang told Pelosi that Washington's efforts to build up or rebuild chip manufacturing were doomed to fail, but the U.S. may not have much of a choice. Analysts at investment bank Credit Suisse have estimated that if the world loses access to Taiwan's chip plants, it will disrupt the production for everything from computers to cars. Agreed. It's already being impacted, and all it is a pandemic that shouldn't have been this damaging to the supply chain, except that that's exactly what benefited record profits for businesses. The supply chain didn't hurt big business. They made bank because they raised the price. You try and get something as simple as a Raspberry Pi right now, and you have to pay close to $200 if you can find it. A monopoly in semiconductor production creates instability, said Brad Martin, director of National Security Supply Chain Institute at the Rand Corporation. If the U.S. is faced with a need to make a decision between protecting its economy and defending Taiwan, that starts to become a very stark decision. Agreed. I think that it is incumbent on the government to provide the means for business to spin up and make chips domestically, because TSMC is one military action away, because it will come in similar to a blitzkrieg. China will roll over Taiwan and take it by force. And if there's any doubt that that's what would happen, well, open your eyes. It will happen if they see it necessary. And they do. They really do believe that Taiwan is theirs. So, the next article is in Four Wheel Tech. Polestar 3 SUV will cost $84,000 loaded and goes on sale Q4 2023. After a Sublime limited production GT and a stylish fastback sedan, Polestar is launching its third vehicle, the aptly named Polestar 3. It's a performance-oriented SUV on the larger side of the spectrum, built on a new EV-only platform developed together with part owner and I don't know, a Geely stablemate, Volvo. So let's take a look at this thing. I don't know. Production of the new EV starts in China in 2023, then South Carolina in 2024. Going to come out of the gate at $84,000 loaded. What do you think the cheap side of this is going to be? I don't know. Polestar opens its order books for the Polestar today. But if you push that button, be prepared for a bit of a wait before you take delivery, as the first cars may only reach those shores toward the end of next year, or these shores. But Polestar is pretty sure one will resonate with North American audience, and local production of the Polestar 3 in Ridgeville, South Carolina begins in 2024. This is going to be an EV. Let's see here. Oh my gosh. Wow. Dual motor spec. In this case, a twin motor, all-wheel drive EV, 489 horsepower and 620 pound-feet. Wow. This thing, that should be sufficient to propel the big SUV 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. But if you feel the need to shave off another 0.3 of a second, the 6000 performance pack ups things to 517 horsepower. By the way, somewhere around 200,000 would probably get you a similar quality car. Combustion engine, 600 horsepower, 650 maybe, depending on the car, I suppose. But SUV size, yeah, you're looking at about 200,000. And it's instantaneous. There's no revving of an engine. It's just hit that button and off you go. And that's what I love about EVs. What sucks about EVs is the fact that the battery really does get impacted by use to a greater degree that a combustion engine does. And weather impacts it even more so. Depending on how long a combustion engine is sitting in the cold, all you have to do is heat it up a little bit and it'll fire up. Batteries, not so much. You can't heat them up too much. You can't get them too cold. Polestar 3 will also be capable of bidirectional charging, in that the EV can do things like feed energy back into your house or grid in the future. Pretty cool, huh? If you got $85,000 sitting in your... Let me scratch that. $84,000 sitting in your couch cushions, go for it. You can get it. So we've been kind of heavy in the EV side of things today, and so I'm going to end with another EV-related matter. How much does an electric vehicle's battery performance change in hot weather? How about cold? If someone drives aggressively in an EV, how does that affect the battery? How much do variations in materials make a difference in how an EV performs in various conditions? These are all questions that I ask. Well, Dan Garino, Inside Climate News, wrote this article for ArsTechnica.com. Understanding how different variables affect battery performance is part of something that they're calling the Battery Genome Project. And creators want to share data and get better EVs and describe what a battery is, much like a nutrition label. That's what should come out for batteries. Researchers and manufacturers have partial answers to these questions based on the data they've collected, but they know much more than if they shared the data in formats that they all could understand. This is the premise behind the Battery Genome Data Genome. Let me rephrase that. The Battery Data Genome, a new initiative led by Argonne National Laboratory in Illinois and Idaho National Laboratory, among others. The name is a reference to the Human Genome Project, a monumental data sharing project launched in 1990 that contributed to innovations in medical science. Quote, "It's going to take a lot of data from a lot of sources," said George Crabtree, a distinguished fellow at Argonne and director of the Department of Energy's Joint Center for Energy Storage Research. Interesting, though, I think a lot of people have asked these questions, but it takes something like the Department of Energy in collaboration with Oregon and Idaho national laboratories to make something manifest like the Human Genome Project in terms of the battery data genome project. I think it'll be great, and it will probably force EV developers and battery technology to get pushed, because it'll become much more transparent that batteries are crap. But the physics have to align, and the fiduciaries have to align to make the physics approachable. You can't get a really expensive battery into production because nobody will buy it. Plain and simple. That's why oil still persists, because it hasn't gotten so bad with internal combustion engines that we have to walk away from them. But we're getting there. And it's been 25 years since I first heard, maybe 30 years since I heard peak oil. Yeah, probably 30 years since I heard peak oil. That's labeling how old I am. But we've been chanting peak oil for a long time. Guess what? It's still getting pumped out of the ground and artificially constrained to drive the price up. And ever since it was on the stock market, the price for oil has shot through the roof compared to where it was before at $30 a barrel. The moment it started getting futures trading on the stock market, it jumped up to 60. Now it's sitting somewhere around 90. Profiteering and greed. The stock market was supposed to make things level, even out the futures. Guess what? The only thing it's done is drive prices up. You can't demand 10% profit, 20% profit, 30% profit, and growth again and again, every month, every quarter, every year, without everybody paying more and more and more and more. And now, ever since the 70s, salaries have been outstripped by the cost of goods going up. And I talked about this yesterday, maybe the day before. In 1975, the price for a house was $35,000, but people were making $17,000. Now, people are making $35,000, but the price of a house is $350,000. And every year that I have found it, the average salary, we're talking an average salary in the United States, has been 3% lower than the previous year. Meanwhile, housing, cost of goods, the consumer price index is all going up by 3%, 6%, etc. Now, if you take into account the fact that today's average salary is 3% less than 2021's salary, and you're talking about 8% inflation, the number that I said that we would hit by the end of the year has been hit, and that is 11%. We already are in a recession. We already are paying the price for corporate greed. And I am a capitalist. I believe in the capitalist process of building a product or service and selling it at what I think it is worth. Not necessarily what you'll pay, but what I think it is worth. And if I don't think that I'm making enough money, then I can lower the price or raise it if my time is being consumed too much and I want a good work-life balance. That's how it works. But there's still something to be said about not being predatory. Allowing people to have money on the table still so that they can feed themselves without having to sacrifice. That's what is coming. And we'll see. We'll see if that actually is made manifest in the next 10 years. So Toll, you stepped away. You made lunch for tomorrow. Look at you, 1%er. You got food. I have to go synthesize it from the air. I have to go in the backyard and just open my mouth and hope bugs kind of... So you find it funny that guys like you and I can figure out these things make predictions about them, but the advisors to the world leaders are clueless. It's because we're not bought. Look at a senator. If we made all of the senators wear suits that look like NASCAR, you'd know exactly who was paying them the most, because they'd have a big old, placard across their forehead that says who their biggest earner or payer is. Alternate between turkey and bologna sandwiches. Super 1%er. Yeah. Meat. You get meat. Wow. Just shrubbery for me. I spend all of my money on this streaming stuff. Look, lights. Do you know how expensive lights are? Oh, see? I didn't pay the bill. Just kidding. There we go. I'll stop playing around. Toll, thanks for hanging out with me. Is it lunch for tomorrow? Yeah, you said lunch for tomorrow. Well, we figure it out, Toll, but guess what? We scream into the void. Something that I said was going on is actually happening. I mean, people are talking about it, but people don't hear me screaming into the void. Some do. And then they go, nah. And then I show them an article 8 months after I first said it. And they go, oh, yeah, okay, I guess you were right. I think to be on any defense budgeting committee or decision making for active duty pay and benefits should have to live off an active duty member's pay and benefits for a term. I don't think for a term. The way that I see it is, if you vote, if you are controlling the purse strings to go into to have military action somewhere, you should have to go. I think that if you are limiting VA support, you should have to suffer the same limited support as anybody in the VA. I think that the people that are hobbling other people should be just as hobbled. You take away food stamps from people that have no opportunity because they simply live somewhere and they've grown up there. And people who are already subsistence living they're already barely making it. So they just, the next generation can't get out of that hole. They're just barely making it. The one thing that drives people out of poverty is education, and we hobble education. We basically say the only people that should get an education are people with money, which has historically been the way that it is. But it's just twisted to be that way. It's sociopathic to be that way. VA has truly gotten better. But the new retirement program for military is transitioning from a high 3 pension to a 401k style thrift savings plan. Yeah, I mean, the VA truly getting better isn't saying much considering where it was and where it is. I mean, it was a dumpster fire. You would add to your comment about getting out of poverty is not just education, but also having a skill that is meaningful. Well, yeah. I mean, a skill is education. Knowledge, skills, and abilities, KSAs. You teach somebody how to program and their life is changed. You teach somebody technology and their life changes. You teach them the more holistic understanding of an education, math, science, technology, engineering, English, art, everything. It's a holistic education, and it's quality. We're talking like not 65 people to a classroom. We're talking about 18 people max to a classroom, and you will get quality educated people providing countless benefit to society. You teach someone underwater basket weaving and their life changes, but they aren't getting out of poverty weaving baskets. That is not true, by the way. Man, People are making some serious bank making hand fabricated bespoke items. That's actually one of the luxury goods. Bespoke items that are made custom command a very healthy penny. It's all about getting traction though. So, but yeah, I understand what you were going for. If there's no opportunity with the skill that's developed, then no, you're not going to get too far. But we need people in all tracks of life. I mean, we need more mechanics. We need more plumbers. We need more construction workers. We need more of everything. The problem is the owners of the businesses deem it not necessary because their margins would have to suffer. And they want the Ferraris while another job might lower that opportunity to get a lift in their garage so that they can raise their Ferrari up so that it doesn't get as dirty as the one underneath. So yeah, that's all I know. Driver, construction worker. I've been there too. But I was one of those people, not drivers, but construction worker. I used to build houses with a neighbor, and he asked me to walk away because I was costing him too much money because I wanted walls to be vertical. He said he just wanted them up. So yeah, that was 40 years ago. 40-ish. But yeah, I'll leave that there. So at the end of the day, this is the ohmTown Daily News Show. We've been chatting about all kinds of stuff. We'll be here tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, every day. Haven't missed a show yet. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. I wonder if that was louder for you than it was for me. So I'm going to have to say see you later. ohmTown needs me, and I'm going to have to run. Thanks for hanging out with me, Toll. Really appreciate it. If anybody else is lurking, thanks for hanging out, lurking. And if you hear this as a podcast, as a VOD, as a YouTube video, thanks for watching. Come and hang out with me. Take care of yourself, Toll. Hopefully, I get to see you tomorrow. Missed you all. Take care. Bye-bye. Still got my spooky music playing.